good later evening. Back at you. I'm excited to do this one. GDXY, something I know a lot about with the underlying GDX, and I'm pretty bullish going forward. So again, I always say, if you're bullish on the underlying, you want to own some of this, right? Because over time, you don't really have to worry about much of a NAV reduction because this thing should perform pretty well on its synthetics. And I'm sure that'll do okay on the weeklies from time to time. It doesn't mean you don't want to own some of the underlying if you're also bullish on GDX or some of the GDX components, because again, the YILEDMAX funds belong in your portfolio from an income perspective, but the more bullish you are on the underlying, the more you might want to do some things with that underlying or with the 2 times, or there's multiple ways to play that. I'll talk about that more in time, or you can go back to my first video. I think I talked on that, but let's jump in here. Okay, I won't make this a long one, I promise. 36.93 is what we closed at, down 0.83%, slight down movement, right? So these funds, or the GDX, is really trying to figure out if it wants to break out. It's already broken out and it wants to run. I mean, I see 38 in the near future. I kind of smell 42, but gold doesn't seem to want to break out to another new all-time high, but it's up there. I mean, these eventually, if nothing more, will just get re-rated by the rating services because they're going to be producing earnings in their second quarter with much, much higher gold prices, right? So the underlying assets in gold and silver and everything and all the other base metals that they pull up, copper, and these companies are just going to move up from an earnings standpoint alone. That's why I'm so bullish, right? The volatility hasn't been that high on GDX. They're downbeaten. They don't represent all-time high gold prices at all. It would need to go to $60 in GDX just to be where it was last time gold was 2,000, let alone 2,400 plus. So anyway, 1985, I got some buys at 1990. I had never bought a fund right on the first day, right at the opening bell. So I noticed, I just put an order in at $20. I didn't know if that's what they go in at, and it looked like, I got filled 5-10 minutes after the open, I think at 1990. That apparently was kind of the high. It traded down a little bit, closed at 1985. The least of my concerns. I'm not worried about pennies on the NAV on this guy. So I got my shares. Here's the situation. So before any of the new funds, and when I started covering YBIT for people that wanted it, what they do is they go in and they put an allocation like the day before. They know they're launching on 5/21. So they went out and they bought some 38 of synthetic. They put a 38 synthetic on, and then they sold both the naked calls at 38 and the naked calls at 38.5. So let's go over and look at the synthetic. This took a while, again, to set all this up for you guys. But again, it's a labor of love. And I just appreciate your comments, your likes, your friends subscribing. Remember, tell friends about the channel. If you like it, you enjoy it, you learn from it. That's how I grow. That's how I ultimately get rewarded when I monetize. And I also mentioned that I'm going to do the Discord room. There's no money in that for me, but it's just a place where people can share information. I can put things that maybe I don't want to just share with the general public. If you like the channel, you're a subscriber and you want to get in the Discord, it's just an additional place. And we can all learn from each other. I learned a long time ago that, surround yourself with people that know more than you, or they know more than you in some other areas. And it all comes around, right? Okay, so this is the 38 that they put on, right? So they wrote 805 contracts because they were able, it was underneath 38, obviously. They were able to capture more money by selling the put than buying the call. But that'll end up being a liability. So when we move down a little bit, we have this quote paper loss, right? For those of you that have listened to my, rant about that earlier. So the end result, though, is that shows us this is a cash transaction. This is a book value, right? It means it hasn't been taken or not taken. So this has clearly been taken. So we put 22,000 in our pockets. And then we also wrote in May, the day before, by selling these, we put another 18,150. And so by dropping down today, right, I'm happy to report that when you look the weekly, we've captured 44%, right? So when you write a 38 and you got, 5 trading days, really 4 when you open here, now 3. So this traded down a little bit from the previous day. It's our first day, but at 36.93, you're below these. So they shrink, right? First of all, they go from 5 days to 4 days. Tomorrow they'll only have 3 days, declining on the time premium, but we're also underneath them. So all we need to do is finish the week below 38 and we capture the 18,000. That doesn't sound like much compared to the other funds, but let's go over here and look, and then I'm going to go back to holdings. So we're in a situation if we keep all this money, all we need to do is be below 38 on one of them and 38.5 on the other. And that gives us 18,000. We collected 22,000 on the synthetic. And so we've got 12 cents of share payout because our shares are only 150,000. They start with that amount, right? And then you buy or sell and you move up. So they have an investor that gives them the capital to begin with. So anyway, it's a positive, nice start to GDXY, right? Nothing better than to have money in your piggy bank. You guys know I love to say piggy bank. Okay. So nothing more on the weeklies. I try down here to show you lows and highs, right? So we're pretty close to the all-time high. Just yesterday was the, not all-time, I take that back, because I mentioned in some of my other stuff. Last time gold was in 2011 when gold was at 1920, which was then an all-time high. GDX was trading at $60 plus. So it gives you some idea how undervalued and beaten up these miners are. When they get out of favor, nobody wants them, right? And that's why I'm so bullish, because I know where gold is going, because gold smells the mistrust in government. I don't care about which party, what your orientation is. It's simply people don't trust their government because they can't trust the government's currency, right? And once inflation hits, which it really has already, then they even lose further trust, right? So gold smelled that out over the last 3 or 4 months. It's tired of all the fiat shenanigans. That's why crypto's been running. That's why gold's running. They're both really alternatives to paper money. Okay, store value. So I see this measuring up to, 40 point, or sorry, that I think is left over from my Misty. Because what I do when you build a new one of these spreadsheets, so that I don't have to redo the format, I copy and paste, and then I go put all the data in for something else, right? So every once in a while something gets left over from that. Now that I've been doing this long enough and have various reportings. All right, let's go to holdings. So here we are, we got money just like the other guys, except we chose the 2 later dates for our treasuries. We don't have anything in First American Money Market, which is a government money market, which most of the funds utilize. So we're setting in cash here. We, unlike YBIT where they had 2 different synthetic prices, this one just has one, which most of the funds only have one. but I'm prepared to roll up, right? So we're now, by going down a little bit, it's a paper loss. Don't really care because it's out till 7/19, right? So on these weeklies that we wrote, right? We wrote this at 6,150. We wrote this at 12,000. Look at this. This one we could buy back at 34.85, and hopefully the end of the week it's zero, right? Because it has to go to 38, and the bulk was written at 38.5. So we're setting at 36.93. So that's reasonably comfortable in a GDX, although you wait. GDX is going to show days where it's up. I would say the height that I've ever seen in all the years that I've followed it, which is, 20 plus years, it has 15% days. And then when you get into Nugget, which is 2 times GDX essentially, I've seen that had 25, 28%, right? So that was like 14% on the underlying. That's when the FOMO gets into the gold miners, which will happen eventually here. We're not there yet. We're in inning 2 of a 9-inning ball game, barely in inning 2. Okay, there's just some recognition that gold smells trouble and has moved up high. All right, I'm going to keep this short. So there's not a lot here, right? It all works the same. Hopefully, Pat. Grateful Girl, I hope you got your shares. I know you said you were going to buy some. I think Paul was oriented. I'm sure there were a few others that reported on this. Let me know in the comments. Hey, I got some GDXY, just anything you want. I love seeing the comments. As again, it takes a while in my rant before to reply to some of these, so I'm long overdue. I made one, I just didn't like the format. So I'll probably redo it. That just how these things work to the nth degree, because it's hard to always answer these questions. I can't give one sentence answers. You're never going to learn from that, right? So like when Red Sox Steve asked me the real detailed, why is it doing this? Could they do that? Why didn't they do this? Then I got to go in and explain it in much greater depth so you understand the whys, right? Okay, that's, I think, let me just make sure I covered everything. Go back to May. Okay, I showed you what they sold. Accounting doesn't matter too much here. We've got some money we can collect, although it's a small amount of money. Again, it's significant, right? We're not going to pay in June when we declare June 5. I can tell you that right now. 99% probability. They could fool me. This could be $1 and they choose to pay, but I don't see it happening. So we've got 5-6 weeks of collecting money. I expect this to be a performer based on what I see gold and gold mine and silver miners doing, right? Based on how undervalued they are. All right, we talked about the weekly, that's all spelled out. I talked about holding. So we closed at 19,853. Fair value says it's 1976. I'm going to start tracking these and get my graphs, right? So that's all I got. Welcome to GDXY, and for those of you just tuning in to check it out, I'm pretty optimistic. You wouldn't know it. Somebody asked me a great question. It said, Bruce, what do you expect with the low IV kind of payouts? And I said, well, in time, I think you're going to get tremendously good payouts on this. But yeah, the IV is like 31 or something, I think I put the range on here. The range in 52 week is 24.80 to 40. But I wouldn't surprise to see this get up into the 50s. So again, I like it. I have a feeling and knowledge that says over the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, this is going to be a hugely bullish upside index. So just based on that, I don't see much NAV reduction. Hopefully we get good payouts, but there's nothing better than getting a 50% payout yield and not having any NAV reduction. Ask the guys over on Tesla in the last 6 months how they feel, right? So that's what you want to avoid. And I said on my other ones, and I got more videos to do, but I'm going to do them early in my morning because it's getting late and I'm tired. NVIDIA is going to impact the market in a big way. For the BTC breakout, even for the gold breakout, they report tomorrow, right? Depends on Wednesday at 4:20 Eastern time. So that's going to send the market up or down. And I think it's risk on or risk off. And pretty much my opinion, short term, is all the asset classes are going to go one way, right? I shouldn't say all. There are some counter-cyclic asset classes. But for the most part, gold, probably oil, a lot of commodities, BTC, NASDAQ, Dow are probably going to respond to what NVIDIA says. I'd say it's a 55% chance they say negative or slightly out in the future it might slow, and that could send a lot of things down. We could use that for us Coney holders, just a slight movement down. But anyway, they could just keep it very upbeat and positive, and you know, it's party on until the music stops, which is probably not that far away, a month or two anyhow. And especially in some of the FOMO and AI and stuff. So that's what I got. Again, this is not financial advice. Bruce out. Peace. Enjoy your sleep if you're there. Let's all have a good trading day tomorrow for our investments. Have fun at work. Whatever, you know, keeps you busy. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This is for fun and education. Okay, see ya. Bye.